Hey guys, how you doing? It's Errol here. Hope you're doing great today. Before we go into our interview today, I want to give you just a bit of a heads up on our Rising Generation campaign that started on the 1st of October. Now, if you're not aware already, we've been doing these interviews now. We've taken some of the nuggets from the interviews and put them into a fantastic book, a resource called The Rising Generation, which is an amazing resource for emerging leaders, established leaders that will help you to step into your biggest challenges and become the leader that God has designed you to be. Now, the way the campaign works is this. Our goal is to get 1,000 pre-orders of the book between now and the end of October, and all the profits from the campaign are going to go towards our work in Africa, in Ghana. We're working with young people and giving them leadership training and soft skills training and even more. And so for the last 15 years, I've been working as a leadership coach, a consultant, working in education and in business. You can check out my website for more information. I'm a John Maxwell trained coach, speaker and trainer. My appeal to you today is this. I want to offer my services to you, to your church, to your business, to your organization, to you as an individual in return for your support for this campaign. Let me give you an example of some of the packages that I'm offering to you. If you were to pre-order 150 copies of the Rising Generation book for your team, for your organization, for your church, or for your business, in return, I would offer you firstly a 90-minute live keynote address on a leadership topic of your choice, along with a Q&A for your organization or team. I'd also offer you a one-day leadership workshop for your team or organization, again on a leadership topic of your choice. And also, in addition to that, give you a free half-day one-to-one or group coaching session, again for yourself as a leader or for your core team or for your wider team on a leadership topic of your choice, all in return for your contribution, which is a $5,000 contribution. You're going to get $8,900 worth of value for your investment, and all the profit goes to the work in Ghana. How awesome is that? And there's similar packages. There's so many offers I've got. Another option is the $1,500 package, which for your $1,500 contribution, you'll get 20 copies of the book for your team or organization. And also a one-day leadership workshop with myself, again for your team, your organization. I'll come in and train your team on a leadership topic of your choice. How amazing is that? So much value. And there are many more offers in line with your budget, what you're able to invest. I want to reach out to you guys. Go and check out the website to make this campaign a success. We really need your support. I'm banking on you. So please share this with your friends and help us to spread the word. We appreciate you. God bless you. Enjoy today's episode. Hello and welcome to the Rising Generation Leadership Podcast with myself, Errol Lawson, and my guest today is Noel Robinson.
Whoa.
Yeah, now if you don't know already, Noel is he's an international worship leader. He's a music pastor, songwriter, and producer, and whose mandate is to see the whole body of Christ rise up in worship, intercession, and unity in this generation. Noel has been involved in worship ministry for over 20 years, and his ability to cross over the many cultural and diverse expressions of worship have allowed him to stand and lead at many leading events and conferences around the world. He has partnered with many ministries from Morris Cerrullo, Rienhard Bonnke, Spring Harvest, Baptist Assembly, ALG, Elim, Renewal Worship Encounters, and much more. Noel, thank you for joining us today.
Wow, that sounds like a really long thing. You've just told my whole life there. Thanks, Errol, man. It's great to see you, man. It's been years, you know?
I know, man. I know.
Wow.
Hey, are there any gaps in your bio, first of all? Any gaps that you want to fill in? Any I missed out?
There's too many awards. No. Now, you know, the one thing in my bio that I just hope people get is not just about accomplishments, but actually I've got a passion for the things of God. Amen. And specifically something, you know, I think that if you're a young leader, if there's no cause, you've got to have a cause. We've got to live for a cause.
Amen.
And that cause should fuel your intellect, it should fuel your emotion, it should fuel your psyche, it should fuel your spirit. And once you have that, then you live for that, so you'll gain knowledge about that. And I think that's one of the things that very early on, I was into music, but then there was a cause for worship, people to worship
Tell us
God.
about that. How did you get into it? Because obviously 20 years is a long time. How did you transition? What were you doing beforehand? How did you come into what you're doing right now?
Well, I mean, at 6 years old, I started to play music. And one of the beautiful things about music is that although I enjoyed it, but I realized that other people enjoyed it as well.
Okay.
So it would seem that I had a skill at a very early age to communicate something of an emotion to people, that they would enjoy how I played, they would enjoy. That actually spurred me on to be the best that I could be. So I studied that because I wanted to be liked. I wanted what I did for people to like it. And actually that's the start of it. And you begin to tie one and one together and thinking, well, okay, I've got this gifting. And then I began to realize there was a transition where my content changed, because content is determined by what you see and what you experience. And I realized that the music became the backdrop to telling that story.
Right.
So I really began to find out my cause to live and going through the many different experiences in life, but I could tell that story in the music, and people identified with that, whether it was going through a valley, whether it was going over a mountain, whether it was walking through a shop, whatever it may be. So in its sense began to change me. So what I saw changed because I understood it. So my ability to interpret what I saw actually began to grow.
That's a great message for anybody listening, a leader out there listening, a young person, an adult even. Noel said that there was something that he realized added value to other people. He enjoyed it, but others also enjoyed it. Is there a gift? Is there something in you that you are passionate about, you enjoy, that others also benefit from? Is that something that God is showing you is a key to your purpose, destiny, ministry, however you might describe that? Noel, was there like a significant turning point for you? Like maybe you were heading in one direction in life, in leadership, and something happened, an epiphany, a revelation, and the cause to go
there was
different
actually,
direction.
and it was this, simply that I became very good at music because I loved it.
Right.
I loved it, and I studied it, and I was doing classical, jazz and rock, and because I wanted to be the best musician. I realized that to be the best musician you needed to play for the best artist. So my dream was to play for Michael Jackson.
Wow.
And I learned all his songs, and I pursued wanting to be on the biggest stage, not from an ego place, but actually God had another thing for me to do. And it didn't mean that he was going to take away my ability to play, but actually he wanted to position me for a generation. The big issue is that I didn't understand it, because nobody understands your tomorrow. You don't understand. You can make decisions today that really help your tomorrow, but we really don't know what happens tomorrow. And here I was pursuing to be the best and to work with the best and to be on that world stage, because I felt that in my church that people understood the music, they enjoyed when I was playing, and outside of church they enjoyed it as well. And I thought, well, let's aim for the bigger marketplace, because I'm playing in front of 300 people on Sunday, but wow, it would be great to play for 3,000. It would be great to play for 300,000. Well, it would be great to have music that the whole world, So that was my pursuit. The pursuit of that without content meant that I was pursuing an empty thing, because music in itself, your gift in itself consumes. So your gift will consume itself. So it turns into a vicious cycle, trying to be better. Without content that stabilizes and forms the gifting. So I began to realize that, hold on, if there was an audience that I was going to play for, and God began to speak to me, and he said, well, I actually called you for the house. So I was like, what do you mean call me for the house? But I want to go to something bigger than the house. And God having this conversation with me said, I've called you for the house. And the issue was that I didn't trust that, because I felt that the house didn't have anything for me. But the issue wasn't whether the house had something for me, it's what I had that was for the house.
Wow.
And in my story, as I began to serve the house, God enlarged my territory from within the house. So I played on all the massive stages. I played at Wembley, I played at all the big venues, but all of it was played with music that come from the house. It was gospel, because God said to me, I didn't want you to do secular, not because there's anything wrong with secular in that way, if this is what your career is, but he actually called me for a specific. So actually my epiphany came when I understood the specific of the calling.
That's great.
Not the specific of the gifting. Because the gifting itself consumes itself. Hence why musicians just play.
Just speak to somebody who's listening right now, they're hearing this and they're in that conundrum right there, and they're thinking, what do I do, How might they navigate that season, that question?
That season when it comes into your life, it's difficult to navigate because oftentimes it's preceded by frustrations and feelings of rejection. This may sound really spiritual, but actually rejection is always the prerequisite for glory. People don't understand you. People don't understand frustrations you're going through. Sometimes we bring our own frustrations on ourselves because we're aiming for D, and all God's asked us to do in this season is aim for C. And it's in C that we learn everything that we need for D. But then we push for D and we get to D, and guess what? D is empty, simply because we didn't learn the lessons of A, B, and C. And oftentimes your gifting will grow quicker than your calling, the content, because your ability, because it's fed from outside you. So as a musician, I was listening to everybody from Eric Clapton to Earth, Wind and Fire, from Earth, Wind and Fire to the Beatles, from the Beatles. I was listening to Jimi Hendrix, I was listening to George Benson, and I was this appetite for the music. It was filling me. I was able to play it at an early age, but actually my content was not there, because my focus has always been on the gifting. It would seem like most of the most successful musicians in the world are people who are focused on a specific that became their calling card. Stevie Wonder, specifics that became his calling card. The songs that he created, they became specifics. Eric Clapton, specific music. He's not a singer. He's not known as singer, but his music. It would seem that the most successful people, even though the ability to do many things, they honed in on a specific. Hence why the process is almost like what I call it's you're learning lots of different things, and then there's a shrinking to the focus. But all the things you've learned actually now serve the purpose of promoting.
It's powerful. It's powerful. You know, I want to say to anyone listening, right? This, no speaking to you from a context of being a musician. This applies to whatever
across the board
field you're in, whatever pursuit of greatness you are pursuing, whatever it might be. The principle, the A and the B and the C have to come before the D. There's a season. You got to understand the season you're in right now. You can't circumvent the season. You can't run around the season. You got to go through the season and the process to get to where it is that God has ordained you to be. It's so powerful. You want to go back and listen to that, somebody.
The big issue is that rejection and failure are part of the process.
Right.
So I realized that as a songwriter, the first song I wrote wasn't that good, and people laughed. But actually, because songwriting was the craft or the vehicle to carry the content, I realized that I had to hone that skill so that the content could be clearer. The moment the content became clearer, did I really change how I wrote a song? No, it's just that my ability to interpret what I saw became clearer, and people automatically saw it. Was I a great singer? No. Was I a great musician? I could play. But actually, it's the difference between finding what you're called to or becoming what you do. It's easy to become what you do. It's much harder to find what you're called to.
Right.
What you do will work only to a level, but what you're called to will take you into new levels, dimensions, and places that you've never been before. It's quite interesting that. So I always say to people, don't become what you do. Take note of the process of what you do, because most certainly it teaches you how to package the content. And that's right across the board. You're called to business, but you're actually doing something. There has to be a time where you serve business. And in the serving of business, how you serve that determines what you take note of. You can go to work every day in a shop and be upset about working in the shop and feel that working in the shop is not. But I guarantee you, if you took note of how the shop ran, you took note of how it's marketed, took notice of the product, took notice of trust me, there's a time coming when all of a sudden there is a flip where now you no longer work for the shop, but guess what? You now own a shop. And you've learned that process. And guess what? It may not be selling shoes. Hello, somebody. But the process
It's transferable.
So I'm talking about music, but that process is transferable in life.
Yeah, that's good. No, what's been your biggest challenge in your leadership journey so far?
The biggest challenge in my leadership journey has been at me. My mindset, my context, understanding me. You can be so gifted that you frustrate yourself.
What lessons have you learned from that?
I learned from that actually I don't take myself seriously. I take the content seriously.
Okay.
What does that mean? It means this, that I use it in this kind of Christianology. It'd be foolish of the donkey to think that when he walked into Jerusalem that all the hand claps were for him, but it was really the hand claps was for the one he was carrying.
Right.
Or the celebration wasn't for the donkey.
Right.
He had an opportunity to carry something that was more than him.
That's good.
Every idea that's birthed in you, it must be an idea that carries legacy. So I go, if I'm carrying something that my children, I want them to benefit from that. So the business idea that I carry is not just for me. It's for my son has got to be able to walk in this legacy. So one of the things that I learned is that stop being frustrated, run your race. Look at a 400-meter runner. Some start off quick, some start off slow. Those that start off quick is because they're able to, but oftentimes they're not able to sustain the last 200. So they have to get into a position where they can maintain. Some people start slow, and they know that when it gets to the 300-meter mark, that's when they go. But they have prepared themselves for 4 years to run a race that lasts 46, 47 seconds. The issue is that the race of life is that you must understand that you're running in your lane. You don't be jealous of the man next to you. But with every measurement you learn, every step that you take, you learn that this is what I can do. And oftentimes you may feel the wind on your back. And when the wind is on your back, just know that the task that you got means this, that you've got some assistance. That may be inspiration, that may be energy, because the rest of the race was hard work. But here comes a rush of adrenaline that gives you a kick. You're out for a faster time now. Run your race. Know the nuances of the wind around you. Know the track that you're running on. Know your strength. Work to your strengths. I really believe that people end their journey at different things. Somebody said to me that KFC, the guy that discovered KFC, Kenoly, when he was 85, that's when he came out with the recipe. Wow, he lived the whole life and then found a recipe that's made his whole family a billionaire family. Right, what I'm saying to you is that never be too old to learn. At my age, I say to young people, gain as much knowledge, gain as much ability, so nobody can deny you. They may deny the color of your skin if you're black, or they may deny you because you're young, but nobody can deny what's in you.
At this stage, 20 years in, how do you define success?
You never arrive at success because every stage you come to is a race. How you navigate that race, you navigate it by experience. And there's new things I'm learning. When I started doing music, there was none of this computer stuff going. There was no marketing, all that kind of stuff. I've had to relearn that. So never be so old that you can't learn.
Is there a picture of success that you have now? Something you're looking towards?
There's a picture of success that I would say in this stage, I would love that my music and the content that God gives me, that across the world people understand it. Because I believe I'm not writing just for one constituent or one territory. I'm writing for world territory, and I'm seeing that happen. I'm seeing my music in South Africa, throughout America, and I want that to grow. That's not a place of arrogance. It goes back to the first thing when God says that I called you for the house.
You know, John Maxwell said that the secrets of success are hidden in your daily routine.
Absolutely.
What do the first 90 minutes of your day typically look like?
The first 90 minutes of my day really do look like trying to answer emails, and stuff. So it frees up the day for me to think. I'm a thinker, and I've got a team of people around me that I come up with an idea, I come up with a concept, whether that be a song or an idea to do something, and then I gather the people through phone calls the second part of the day, and then maybe late afternoon I might do some writing, doing some songs. I try to put that in, but I tend to do that in day things. So if I'm doing a writing day, my first 90 minutes looks like breakfast, having enough food to eat, because once I start creating the music, I don't stop to eat. So I know I have to put those preparations in. There is a consciousness that I have every morning I wake up, and that consciousness really does set my day apart. And that consciousness is, wow, I'm alive for one more day. I want to make this day effective. I want to make this day a day where my thoughts get to accomplish the things that you called me to. And every morning I wake up with that. I wake up with a new energy. If there's an issue and a problem, I wake up asking God to help me with this. Because every day is different. But I wake up with a consciousness. I wake up with a consciousness, even if I know what I've got to do, I wake up with a consciousness that actually I need the wind. I need the wind behind my back to help me to accomplish this.
Have there been any other habits that have contributed towards your success?
Yes, practice. Practice. Practice to create when there's no inspiration.
How many hours a day do you play?
Not as much as I'd like to now. There was a time when I was doing 5-6 hours a day. Writing. Now I'm doing a lot more writing of songs. So every moment is filled with an idea. So my phone is filled. I love technology. My phone is filled with ideas. Filled with one-liners that actually, right in my phone now, I've got a songwriting program. I've got 92 songs.
Wow.
And of the 92, there is probably 30 or 40 that are completed.
And they're not released yet,
and some they're not released yet, right? And then there is the rest that are just ideas, right?
Because it's albums.
Right, it's albums.
Right, it's great. What's your biggest weakness as a leader?
My biggest weakness as a leader is I think is my ability to, I think, motivate. Maybe, I don't know, maybe it's difficult to find my weakness because I can get other people to pinpoint it. But maybe I don't think that I am driven enough. That's me personally. Because having been driven for many years, I'm very relaxed about what I do. I struggle with being driven because I think that being driven does not allow a natural flow. So, and is it a weakness? Some people may call it a weakness. My wife had this experience with me. I said, I'm going to be writing a song today. And she watched me the whole day walk around the house, actually doing nothing. I sat for a minute, watched TV, see her pick up nothing, no guitar, no nothing. And she went, you're just not driven, you're not doing it. It actually got to about 4:30 in the afternoon, after around the whole day puttering, and I went, got it. Picked up my guitar and went, within an hour, by 5:30, I had a whole song. And she went, wow, that's really good. And I said,
that's not really a weakness, is it?
Well, she said that I'm not driven. That's why I said that around the word driven. So I don't know if I've got a weakness. That's such a good question. Okay,
let me ask you, what's your biggest strength?
Creativity.
Okay. See, oftentimes our weakness can be the flip side of our strength.
Absolutely. So rather than...
You can be so creative perhaps sometimes that...
You've nailed it. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So I have people around me. When I go into a writing session, I've started. I'm a gusher, so ideas just come.
Right.
So I need people around me that go. Actually, that first idea, that's great. I love that. Blah blah blah. Let's establish that. So that would be my weakness. I can gush loads of ideas without nailing one, and I need people around me that go.
It's great. And who have been the most significant? In fact, before I ask you that one, When you started out, like, I know it's a long time ago, what, if anything, was holding you back from going into leadership? Leadership in the sense of, however you define it, I guess. What was holding you back, if anything, from stepping out?
My belief in myself. I believe that all the ingredients are there like they are now. But did I believe that the abilities and the content that I have, that others would be interested, that others would go, wow, I like that. I just didn't believe they would. So it hindered me. That's why I was able to hide behind the music and go, well, I want to do this for someone. I want to serve somebody. Nothing wrong with serving somebody. When God was saying to me for a long time, well, I've actually called you to be like them. Does that make sense?
It's amazing, you know. I think so many people, like, they're going to be at the beginning of their journeys now, they're listening, and that imposter syndrome, if you want to call it that, that they're struggling with it. How did you navigate that? How did you...
Well, in our churches, we had an interesting word that I used to use. It's called humility. Because this word, being humble, it was defined wrong in my early years. Because being humble was, if you were good, you had to dumb it down. If you were seen to be excellent, you're showing off. Oh, look at him. Who does he think he is? Right? And what happens is that many people would say that, oh, he thinks he's really good. Well, am I good or not, you know? But that used to hurt a lot. And I purposely used to dumb down things. Just work in that place where... and then here was... when I got the full revelation of humility, was that you could be good without being arrogant. And actually, God required of you to be the best that you could be, not the best. Actually, when I confronted myself on this, and that I need to be confident about what he's done, I need to be confident about what he gave me. If he gave me 3 notes, I need to play those 3 notes confidently and not worry about humility. But actually, I called it this, and I summed it up with this, that if you're given something of great preciousness and you're given to deliver this to someone, and that's what you're supposed to do, deliver it to someone, you don't walk around with your head hung low. You search out, you make you make it your duty to fulfill a thing. So I began to think of myself in the third person, that wow, Noel has been given something that's beyond him, but he's been given that. His role and his purpose is to share that. Share it, Noel. Now that may seem strange, because the moment I start to say I was like, oh my God, I need to be humble. But the moment I went, Noel has been given, and then I began to see where this is how I began to combat that. That I've been given something precious. How I view it matters. What I do with it matters, because I've been given it. I've been blessed to be a blessing. So I have to look after this blessing so it can be a blessing to others. So looking at it from a third person helped me to deal with that.
It's great. And that self-image thing, that,
absolutely,
you know, you got to see yourself, guys, as in the way that God sees you. But getting that self-image right is so important. In fact, that self-image can be a lid on our potential right there. You've got to lift that lid, self-image of ourselves. I'm telling you, it's possible. You can do it. I love what Noel said. I love it.
And the other thing as well is looking at others. We're very good at judging ourselves.
Comparing ourselves.
Comparison is another one that actually limits you.
It's a distraction.
Yes, a distraction. You know, it's like the defender looking at the striker and being jealous about the striker because he's scoring the goals. So the defender's touched the ball 500 times, he run up and down all over the place. The striker's got the ball once and he scores a goal. Everybody celebrates the striker, not realising that actually it's the team. And because you carried out your role of defending, what you actually did was protect the striker and give him the ammunition to score.
You know, Noel, just a couple of questions for you, right? Next one is, who are your most significant mentors?
My mentors musically and in terms of my ministry and what I do, Graham Kendrick, people like Graham Kendrick. There's my dad, musically, spiritually. I'd say, you know, the guys that do what I do, you know, and
give me three. So you talk to your dad,
I would say Graham Kendrick, and I was very, very much inspired by a lady in my church called Sister Palmer.
Okay,
Interesting. You know, she was a song leader.
Okay.
Who wasn't the best singer in the world.
Wow.
But when she stood up in front of that congregation, something happened.
Wow.
It would seem like she had the ability to introduce faith to any equation.
Wow.
Now, because I was called to the house, faith is very important in the house. And I realized that, wow, if I could learn that to introduce faith to any audience,
come on, man,
whether they were evangelical white or Caribbean or African black, hey, if I learned that, and that's fact, I went, wow, to introduce faith to an audience. So she really, and if you would meet her, she wore out the carpet, she preached, she sang, and I go, wow. You know, so that's that most musically.
What about so from your dad and Graham Kendrick? What's the best piece of advice you've gotten from them?
Well, Graham Kendrick, I love Graham's commitment to his calling, not to the gifting, to his calling. That commitment is seen the way he prays, seen the way he takes everything seriously, takes everything about his calling seriously. He's got a wicked sense of humour. But I worked with him for 8 years, picked up his guitar, packed his stuff away, tuned his guitar. I served his house for 8 years before God went, it's your time. And I learned how to serve. In actual fact, because I serve so strong, I have people around me doing exactly the same thing for me. It's funny how, if you're not willing to serve, you can never gain. What is it that you desire? So great. My father, I love the way my dad supported me, encouraged me, even when things were not brilliant. And I took that on board, that everybody around me will be encouraged by me.
Wow. I
don't major on their negativity. I'll highlight it to them, but I'll always push their positive things. That's what I learned. Because lots of things about me that was maybe not correct, but my dad would always encourage me. And that spirit of encouragement, wow. I do it for my son, I do it for my friends, people around my team, guys in my team. I'm always encouraging them. Why? Because I feel that something about an encouraging word can change somebody's paradigm thinking. Because they believe, somebody believes in what I'm doing. Wow, you mean I wasn't as bad as that? And you know, so encouragement sweetens the labour.
And lastly, what are you most fired up about right now?
Fired up. I'm fired up about revival for the church, that the church will be revived. I'm fired up about people becoming everything they should be. A bit like what you're doing here. I do it from a musical perspective. I'm fired about how people worship God in their everyday life, that it's beyond the music, that a lifestyle is in front of the kitchen, in front of a workplace, a lifestyle of worship that actually creates this place of revival, that God being very present in people's life. So I'm very fired up about those things, revival across the UK.
And how do you find out more about you? Do you have a website?
NoelRobinson.com, www.noelrobinson.com. You can find out more about a ministry that I put together called Kingdom Worship Movement, www.kingdomworshipmovement.com. You can find me on Twitter, Noel Robinson UK, Instagram, Noel Robinson UK. You can find me on Facebook, Noel Robinson.
Awesome. And is there a book, I should have said earlier actually, is there a book you recommend to someone listening right now? Maybe they're an emerging leader, they're trying to get from where they are to where they believe God has called them to be, connect those dots. Is there a book you recommend?
This may seem strange. If you're a worship leader, I would say this, and you play an instrument, I would say, learn your craft, be skillful at your craft. And the second thing is, your content must be the word. So you're going to have to read the Bible and things around that. But like if you were in computers, I would say, hey, you need to study a language, or you need to study programming or operations. Study what is it that you want to do. But most certainly, as a worship leader and musician, you got to study your craft. Study yourself to be approved. Study yourself to show yourself approved unto God. What do I mean by that? Most people say, well, that's spiritual. No, that isn't actually. Actually, God is waiting for you to fulfill a particular destiny. I found out that I played before kings and queens because I prepared my gifting. I found out that doors would open for me because of my gifting, but it opened me so I could share my content. So those are the two things. So study to show yourself approved. I was once told that if there's a particular area of your life that you want to be an expert in, read one book a month on that particular theme, and you might find yourself being an expert if you're willing to read one book a month. So I read many books. One of the great books that I read was a book called Proof Producers by a guy called Morris Cerrullo. Morris Cerrullo helped me to believe that, hey, actually the thing that what's in me is greater than the world. It helped me to believe that by doing this thing I would prove God. I also read a book by Terry Law about the power of praise and worship. That book totally inspired me. It's a Noel book, but actually it was about praise and worship in the streets. That these guys set up in the middle of Russia and began to do praise and worship. Okay, and everybody's thinking what they're doing, but actually people became saved. The atmosphere over a city and town was changed. And these are some of the books that inspired me. I'm a bit of a revivalist, so most certainly I'm in the process of trying to write a book now.
Wow.
Tell my story.
Wow, no.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for today, man. Honest to God, it's been an amazing conversation. I'm encouraged. I'm lifted. And it's great to connect with you again, man.
Can I say one thing? God is not concerned about where you come from. He doesn't move on geography. He doesn't move on culture. He doesn't move on ethnicity. He moves with content. The one content that God does not, he will never pass up, is his word that he spoke over your life. The word of God spoken over your life doesn't necessarily fit into what we call the church paradigm. Most people think that, well, if there's a word over my life, then it's for the church. No. Actually, because he exists outside of time, he exists outside of what we call the context of the church. He's actually speaking your positioning in the world into being. I believe that we become worshippers who are politicians, we're worshippers who are businessmen, we're worshippers who are economists, we're worshippers who are lawyers, worshippers who are policemen, we're worshippers who are students, we're worshippers who are mothers, we're worshippers who are fathers, we're worshippers who are cousins, we're worshippers. Right, we're worshippers, and I say we're worshippers. Why? Because when worship defines, and we have to understand the context of worship, the first place of worship was not in the church. The first place of worship was in the Garden of Eden. And actually, the Garden of Eden was this, that man walked with God. Man walked relationship.
Amen.
So we're saying, wherever you carry that relationship, we know that God is there. So I believe that we're entering a season where a generation is going to fulfill the call of God.
Amen.
The glory of God coming in the earth. You are the glory of God in the earth. Because the glory of God is the doxology of God, what God spoke. When God said that's a tree, it was a tree. Right? He created a tree. And guess what? When it acts like a tree, guess what happens? It brings glory.
Amen.
So when God says that I've called you to be in politics, when you become a politician, you bring glory to God. So most people think glory only exists on the platform at church.
Right.
But there's a glory that operates in scientists and inventors. There's a glory that operates because maybe the man that brought the drawing pin, which is a solution to papers coming together, maybe that man, that was all his calling was, to invent the paper clip. But guess what, when he did it, guess how many people, billions have been sold. What I'm trying to say to you is that take your place.
Amen. Stay in your lane.
Absolutely.
Have faith in God. Wherever he's called you to be, whatever he's placed in you, have faith in God. Stay in your lane. Run your race.
Exactly.
Praise the Lord.
And we can say like David, that in his generation, he completed the will of God.
Amen. Amen.
His will, the will of God for his life was just to design the temple. But he designed the temple so that his son could build it.
Amen.
What are you designing? There you go. Thank you.
Thank you. God bless you, man. Wow.
Thank you again for joining us today on the Rising Generation Leadership Podcast. I pray you've been inspired, you've been lifted, you've been encouraged to take your personal leadership to the next level. We really encourage you guys to just take action, make it happen, do something, start somewhere, go out and change the world in some way, big or small. Guys, if you've enjoyed the podcast today, please share with your friends, share with your loved ones, your colleagues, someone out there you think might benefit from hearing this great content. And if you want some more questions answering, you got a question, email me, Errol@errollawson.com, or if you want a free 30 to 45 minute coaching session with myself around the leadership challenge or issue you're working on in your business, your church, or in your organization, please feel free to email me right away. We'll get you booked in. It's Errol@errollawson.com. Thank you again for listening. Go to our iTunes page, check it out, check out the previous episodes, give us a nice review. That would be awesome. Really appreciate if you could do that for us. We really appreciate you just for being here and listening. Thank you so much. God bless you, and we'll see you on the next episode of The Rising Generation.